I have seen many terrible things. Women screaming as they were murdered, and men's hands dripping with blood, and men haunted by knives, and little grotesque children drained white by the voraciousness of filth, and loathsome old men insane with a vice, and young men with cankles crawling on their flesh like hungry lizards. This I've seen, and more, and never been afraid. Oh God, forgive my sins, I'm sick and old. Forgive my sins and give me peace. What in wind shakes my hand? What unseen ghost stands by my side? No, no, it cannot be the dead. The dead. The dead. The dead never come back. They sit down in the dust with no eyes to dream and no silence to keep, no secrets to hide. Empty, nothing, nothing. Oh, black sun, where, oh, where has my lover gone? Who's there? Oh, black sun, oh, black sun, what? Nothing. But then, if there is nothing to be afraid of, why am I afraid of this nothingness? I must forget about it. Laugh at it. Yes, laugh at Oh God, forgive my sins, I'm sick and old. Forgive my sins, I'm sick and old.
Today we have Contralto Skinner with us. How are you? You look great.
I'm great, John. Thank you. How are you?
I'm living the dream as usual. Doesn't get much better than this. It's a nightmare, but somebody's got to live it. I have a few questions for you. Where were you born?
In New York, Brooklyn, New York.
How old were you before when you knew that you had some sort of musical talent?
I was in the second grade, so I think I was 6 or 7.
Anybody else in the house, were they musical?
My father sang and played guitar.
Okay.
My grandfather on my father's side actually designed organs and made organs. On my mother's side, all of her siblings actually played the piano and they sang on the radio. So there was music in the family always.
Good. Where did you go to school? Where did you, elementary school? Where did you go to elementary school?
I went to elementary school. Oh gosh, we moved around. So I went to elementary school. I went to like public school 161, and then I ended up at public school 233, where I ended up starting to actually sing in choirs. And then my mother took me to see my first, we actually went on a school trip to the Metropolitan Opera. I can't tell you what the opera was. I do know that, God help us, the poor people were on stage singing, and there were these candies back in the day that were called like little orbits, and kids took straws and they were eating the candies and they were spitting the straws onto the stage, and people were singing, and you saw orbits bouncing all over the stage of the Metropolitan Opera. And I thought, oh God, they are never letting children back, because they had us in those little side boxes.
Yes.
So we were close enough to have orbits bouncing all over the stage.
Oh my God.
Horror of horrors. Trust me, for years I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna get paid back for that. But I was not one of the children, but guilty by association.
Exactly.
And then my mother took me to the first opera she took me to, which was Carmen, Fell in Love, at the Met. And I just was like, oh my God, this is like amazing. Then I went to when I went to junior high school, it was Meyer Levin Junior High School. And you remember Welcome Back, Kotter?
I do.
Okay, so Gabe Kaplan's brother was a music teacher, and he was my music teacher.
No kidding.
At that school. And I literally started doing musical theater there, singing in show choir there, I played in the orchestra. I played clarinet for 7 years.
I did not know that. See, there you go.
I played clarinet for 7 years. And then I auditioned to go to performing arts for clarinet and to music and art for voice. Okay. And I got into both, but I had to choose one. And so I was just like, I've played clarinet for 7 years. Let me, go in and learn some singing. And so I decided to go to music and art, the Fame School. And so I decided to go for voice instead of for clarinet, and did that, graduate. And upon graduation, I decided I didn't want to do music anymore. And I went to school for acting to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. Yep. And so I studied acting and hated it, and decided to switch majors. And first I transferred schools thinking maybe another acting program will be better. And that's when I ended up in Philadelphia. Right. At the time, it was the Philadelphia College School of Performing Art. You know. Right. You know the story. That's PCPA. Where we met.
That's right.
I was studying theater. I was an acting major.
Yes.
And then I went into a practice room with a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, Paula Panicelli. Who's now Paula Panicelli di Gianni Vittorio. He was working on an aria, and it was O mio bambino caro. And she was having trouble with it. And I said, oh, I could teach you that. I said, I learned that in high school. And she was like, what? I said, oh yeah, I sang all these arias in high school. And so I was in the practice room with her, taking her through the aria. And someone else we have in common, Vivian Wagner, opened the door, looked in, and was like, I know you, because she knew Paula, but she didn't know me.
Right.
She's like, so that couldn't have been you singing. That had to be you. I was like, yes, I'm just helping her, with this aria. I hope that's not a problem. She goes, oh no. And she was like, get up. And I got up for the piano, and she sat down, and she was like, oh, just sing. And I sang for her, and she was like, what's your name? And I told her my name, and she's like, And then she left. And I guess at some point you and her had a conversation, because I was taking voice lessons from you outside of the school,
Mhm.
not as part of the school, because I
That's
just
right.
wanted to keep my voice lessons up.
Mhm.
And 2 weeks later, I got called into the dean's office and they were like, so we know you want to study acting, but you can sing opera. So we're going to give you a scholarship and you can stay at school, but you'll still get your acting. They were like trying to make it like you're still going to get to study acting.
Mhm.
And I was just like, I don't know. I said, I'm not trying to be an opera singer. I said, I don't even know if I can make a living as an opera singer. And they're like, oh, no. No, I said, no, I think I should do musical theater. They're like, no. You need to come over here and we're going to pay your tuition if you come over here.
Mhm.
And that's how I became an opera singer.
Yeah.
It was an accident in a practice room.
Yes, and I'll let you now that it's, I don't want to say how many years later.
Yeah.
Vivian came to me and she said, "Who is this girl?" And I said, I said, "Oh, you're talking about Judith." She says, "Yes." She says, "We have to have her in the voice." So when we worked, it was the full intention of that was to get you into the opera company because you had such a unique sound. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of us didn't know what to do with you because and I'm sure it took a while because a contralto is a totally different animal than most voices. I never had the experience. I never had the experience to teach. I gave you. I tried to give you is basic things, and just to get you to produce the sound that's so glorious. I said that you should study with Vivian because your voice was so different. It was just the sound was. I mean, it still is. I mean, even as when you first came, I mean, it was an amazing instrument. It's probably one of the better voices that ever went through PCPA, as far as I'm concerned. That I was so happy that you made that choice, and it was my pleasure. I mean, to work with you. I mean, and we've been friends for a long time.
Ever since.
Yeah. When you left PCPA and having the voice that you did. Did you go after the PCPA?
I went back to New York and I tried to do what everyone tries to do. You either make the decision to go into a master's program or you try to go into a young artist program. I decided that I had enough of school, the technical term of school. And I said, I'm going to go the route of the young artist program, get more time on stage and really hone in on my craft. I ended up auditioning for every young artist program that existed in the world.
Okay.
And never got into any. The turning point for me was an audition with Michael Ching. At the time, he was running Opera Memphis. And I remember going into that audition, singing. And I finished singing. It was a duple audition. It was Opera Memphis and Virginia Opera at the time. I sang my audition, and this is what happened. Bring that chair over here and let's sit down and talk. I almost died. Oh, dang. I was like, oh, dang, this has never happened to me before. I'm like, oh, Lord. And I'm sitting in the chair and I'm looking at him. I'm like, he's like, so what exactly have you been doing? Same question that you asked me. And I explained to him that I have been auditioning for every young artist program in the world. I have done them multiple times. I was like, I get all the callbacks, but I never get into a young artist program. And he looked at me along with, I think it was Jerome Shannon at the time, was sitting next to him.
Yep.
And they looked at each other and he looked at me. Michael Ching said, "You're never going to get into a young artist program." And I was like, oh, okay. He goes, no. It's not for what you think. It's not because you're bad. He goes, that's not what I'm saying. He's like, people go to young artist programs because they want to hone their craft and they want to work on their stage presence and they want to work on acting skills. And he said, you don't need to do that. He says, you just sang 2 arias and gave 2 full performances. He goes, I have nothing. When I say to you, I have nothing for you. I have nothing for you. And I was like, okay. And Jerome Shannon was like, I got nothing for you. And I'm like, okay. He goes, but I'm going to keep you in mind and I'm going to look out for you. And you do one of those, okay.
Yeah.
And but it gives you a tool when you the door from the audition. And so I walk out the door from the audition, and I swear to you, I walked out the door from the audition and people were like this.
I believe it.
And people were clapping, and I was like, what is happening? And they were like, I don't know what aria you just sang as your last one. That was the greatest thing I have ever heard in my life. And I was like, oh, thank you. It doesn't get me a job. And I left. I just kept auditioning for young artist programs all the time. Then I started auditioning for really smaller opera companies just because you have to put stuff on your resume.
Of course.
No one's gonna, you gotta put your stuff on your resume. And so I sang with Bronx Opera, got beautiful glowing reviews. I sang with the Regina Opera which is a company in Brooklyn. Yeah. I literally started singing with all of these smaller companies. Right. And then one day, out of the blue, I get an email from Japan from Michael Ching.
Really?
And it was, I think, 2 years later. Wow. And it was, hi, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? What's going on with the career? And I'm like, well, I've done this and I've done this. I was like, I've still never gotten into a young artist program. I guess you were right. But I've been getting hired at smaller companies just because I said, I need to build a resume. No one's going to hire me without a resume. He goes, I have a proposition for you. He goes, I'm doing Tales of Hoffman at Opera Memphis. There's a role, La Mer. It's not,
right.
But it gets you something on your resume. It's a professional credit.
Right.
And I said, when is it? I'm there. I didn't ask about money. I was like, I'll go. I'll go. I built my career slowly by doing really small roles with major companies just because I had to build a resume. Not because of any other reason, except that I had to build a resume. Now, that's not to say that people weren't calling me to do, at the time, like Porgy and Bess.
Right.
But I was told before I even graduated from school by very important people who had come and given master classes, literally had pulled me to the side and said, I'm going to tell you what's about to happen. You're going to graduate. You're going to go out there and everyone's going to be calling you to do a Porgy and Bess. They were like, there's nothing wrong with singing Porgy and Bess, except in this era you're in, once you do it, you will never sing anything else.
Unfortunately.
And that's just the way it is. And I said, well, I don't need to do it because I've sung all the choruses since I was in high school. I know the music by heart. I don't need to, it's not important to me at this juncture to do it. Right. And they were like, do it after you've put a lot of other stuff on your resume. Right. So then it doesn't become you're like this one trick pony, because literally that's what it was doing to people at the time when I left school. Right. And so I turned it down a million times over. Sure. I just said, no, I need to do other roles. And so I slowly built, jobs doing other roles before I even did my first one. And the first one I ever did, I trusted to Michael Ching. He called me on the phone after I had put a whole bunch of other stuff on my resume. Right. And he was like, okay, you've built your resume. I'm doing a Porgy and Bess. I said, well, I've never done the role of Mariah before. Right. I said, I've always done all the choruses. And he was like, no, I really think that this is a role that you can add to whatever else you've done. Right. And I went to Opera Memphis. I trusted him. And I did it for the first time at Opera Memphis because I knew that he was going to give me the opportunity to do it in its full scope, and it was going to be received really well. And that was the first time I'd done it. And I had been singing by that point about 10 years working before I even decided to do it.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, that's basically how my career started. I did not go the regular route because literally nobody would give me an opportunity to be in a young artist program.
Well, you know what? It would have to be so wrapped around you because your voice, there is not much music that's not written for a secondary at that time.
Right.
Contralto. So yeah, that's what it is. So, it's not that you there was just nowhere to put you.
There was no, literally everyone was like, I have nothing I can give you. Right. You're making callbacks. I've spoken to people who were like, have you heard this girl? They were like, yeah, but we got nothing to give her. She would have.
What would you say now that you're an established, successful singer? What role would you say that you have the most identity with? That, and I mean that not only vocally, but an emotional connection and a spirit that you really know that you know this and you sing this well.
Strangely enough, it is a Menotti opera that literally when I saw the score, I cried. It is The Medium. It is Baba.
Yep.
And I want you to know, all I did was in college, I did the mad scene at the end because they were like, oh, this is what you need to do for the scenes program. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is me. Oh, okay. Until I cracked open the score and I was like, I saw so many accidentals, my brain almost exploded. I was just like, wow, okay, tears. Yeah. It was torture to learn that role. Yes. Torture. My first professional job, I auditioned for that role. And I remember they literally gave me the audition and then they went back and looked and realized that I had nothing on my resume.
Really?
And then they contacted me and they were like, so you're auditioning for The Medium. You want to be The Medium, but you've never done, your resume is, and I was like, yeah. And literally this is what I was told. Well, if you're gonna audition for this role, you need to show up and you need to sing that mad scene. That's the only thing we want to hear.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. Because that was 25 pages of music that I tortured myself to learn. And I already knew all of that music. And I was just like, oh, I'm showing up because I killed myself to learn this and I'm going to show up. And so I showed up and they were not expecting me to be good. They were not expecting me to be even close to good because there was literally nothing on my resume but college. Yeah. And I went into that audition and everyone was looking at me and people were sitting like this. And the panel was like,
yeah.
And I was like, okay, we're going to start here. And the pianist is like, wait, you're singing the whole thing? I'm like, yes, we're going to start at the begining and we're going to sing till they tell us to stop.
There you go.
All 25 pages. And
really?
She was like, okay. And we started and I sang and it wasn't like a standard park and bark. I became that crazy person. It was like I sat and people were sitting there like this. And I was like, thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye. And I left. I didn't expect to get the job.
Right.
But for me, it was like, you know what? You offered me an audition and then you tried to backtrack on the audition.
Right.
And then you were like, the only thing we want to hear is this. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
I'll be there.
Good for you. Good for you.
And 3 days later, they called me on the phone and they were like, we're doing 6 performances of this. Plus, we're going to do a whole bunch of outreach of this. And we want to give you a shot at doing this role. And they did double cast the show. And I was like, that's fine. I'm okay with this. I'm going to get a credit. It's going to be a credit. It's going to be a New York credit. Hopefully I get a night that gets reviewed. It's going to be great. And it was great. It was one of the greatest reviews I've ever received in my life.
Wow.
And it was my first job. And I was reviewed. My joy in that is that I literally was reviewed on the same night in the same review as Pavarotti and Kathleen Battle.
Wow.
And you know what? I'll take it.
That's right.
Because I was like, I can't get into a young artist program. So I need to just put myself out there and go and try and get jobs.
What did it feel like when you walked off that stage and you finished that?
I cried because the night before the final dress rehearsal, I broke my thumb.
Oh.
Literally on the stage, because they had there's a gun and she like shoots this gun at the end, and they had set the gun in the wrong place. And so I had to like propel my body to get to this gun. And when I did I snapped my thumb all the way back. It was laying on the back of my hand.
Oh my.
And and I just kept singing. I kept singing and my hand was swelling and I just kept going. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to get to the end. And people were looking at me like, her hand is 3 times the size it was before. And people were like, someone start going get some ice. Her hand is gone. Her hand is broke. It's disintegrated right in front of us. And I got through. I got through the performance and came off the stage and was like, yeah, I need lots of ice. and strangely enough, that became a theme for my entire career. I could not leave my house without coming back with a horror story of something that has happened to me. And literally people are calling me going, so what happened this time? And I called every time I left to go take a job somewhere. It became a theme. People like, you need to write a book. Because the stuff that has happened to you, for every job, the fact that you are still here, I have fallen through floors on stages where people forgot to close the trap door and they didn't tell you, and you open the door and you step and you're like, ah!
Oh God, oh no, really?
All kinds of things have happened to me. Things have fallen off of scaffolding and laid me out. I'm a running theme of my entire career.
We're going to call you Mayhem.
If it could happen to someone,
it's going to be you.
Me.
Yes, I get that. Who would you say was a pinnacle person in refining your singing? And it could be a coach or a voice teacher.
There were 2 people. Lena Gabriele was a voice teacher that I discovered when I came to New York after having gone through a lot of voice teachers. And what you said initially with we didn't know what to do with your voice is a running theme of my entire career.
I get it.
Every person that I ever sang for was trying to fit my voice into a mold of what they believed a voice should be, instead of, there's a sound that everyone hears for contralto. And I don't have that sound. That was never my sound. Even when I went to Germany for a number of months, they were just like, no, you are dramatic, mezzo, speak. Like they were coming up with names of, and I was like, no, because that would mean that I'd sing, and I don't know. And she was the first person who said, that's your sound.
Right.
I accept that that's your sound. Now, this is what we need to do.
Right.
So that you can keep producing that sound. The second person was Deborah Birnbaum. Deborah Birnbaum changed my life in that no one ever talked to me about breath. And I told her one thing. I studied the clarinet for 7 years. And instantaneously, she understood why I was breathing the way I was breathing.
Right.
She was like, oh, you played a wind instrument since you were in junior high school. She went, okay, So you breathe the way you would breathe if you were playing that wind instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, yeah. She goes, so nobody explained to you that that's not going to work for singing. And by the time she explained this to me, I had been singing professionally for about 15 years.
Right.
And in her saying that to me, I went, oh, I didn't know there was a difference because no one ever talked to me about it.
Exactly.
Everyone was like, she can breathe. She's making this sound. This is great. And she's like, no, that sound can be even better and could be better supported if we go back to the basics. And I'm like, okay, I'm game. Because people have tried all kind of crazy things with you, but never explain.
I can hear you. I believe me. I know.
But they never explained, and they never asked me about my past musical, you know. And in that one conversation where her, like, oh yeah, I didn't have in all honesty, my first private voice lesson ever in life was with you.
Really?
And that was college.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even studying voice.
No.
I was an acting major.
Yeah.
I'd never had a private voice lesson. I had always sung and had voice lessons group wise, but I'd never had a private lesson.
Wow.
Well,
I'm honored.
So in doing that with her in that moment, it changed everything.
Yeah.
It changed my sound, changed what I was capable of doing.
Right.
That I did. And then when you go back and you sing things you hadn't sung in a while, with this newfound knowledge, I was just like, oh my God, wow. So those were the two people who really, one refined my sound and the other person figured out what the issue was.
Right. I never knew you played the clarinet. I had no idea.
But the day they told me I'd have to make my own reeds, I went, did the factory burn down? I'm confused. Because I used to just purchase them from the store. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and start carving wood. And I'm like, can we find another factory? And they all, you see how you're laughing? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Clarinet teacher was like, you are a piece of work. I said, yeah, I'm not making a reed. It's never going to happen.
How crucial is it that you had a vast acting ability before you became a singer?
So I think it changed how I approach a role, even as an opera singer. I don't start from the music. I read the libretto, I translate, and I go, okay, this is where she's trying to get to. And then I start compartmentalizing, okay, in this section, this is what she's doing. Right. And I don't get to the end. You don't want to play the end before you do the beginning. Right. And so it really helped me to compartmentalize. And then I said, okay, now let's go to the music.
Right.
Okay. I wouldn't even put the words to it. I'd have to go to the music first and go, okay, well, where is this line going? What is the trajectory of this line? Okay, what do I need to do to get to the end of this line without dying from not having air or what have you? And so I broke mine down like that. The acting part was never hard for me, but I always understood, because I had studied it for so long, I also always understood, okay, this character is this person, and then this is what everyone says about this person, which then tells you more about who your character is.
Exactly.
And I take it from that route. So the acting for me has always been the first. If I don't feel that the character itself goes anywhere, it's harder for me. At that point, then I depend more on the director to let me know what they're thinking. Okay. And what is your concept? Because right now this is very vague. Nobody's saying a lot about this character. Right. What are you thinking? And then once I get that, then I'm like, oh, okay. now I know how to put that into context. Listen, people could say a lot of things like, oh, I didn't like the way she sang that. Oh, but no one's going to say I got up on that stage and I didn't perform that kind of a singer. I don't care about pretty sound because a lot of the characters I play are not pretty. So I'm okay to get down and dirty in the trenches with you and make that.
Right.
Because I think of myself as an actress who happens to sing opera. Right.
Good for you. That's very well put. If you were going to listen to someone sing, if you were going to listen to, who were your go-to singers?
Oh my gosh, now you're going to make me come up with the names. They're old singers. Oh my God, old singers. And of Mariella Franey. Right. I'm a big fan of, oh my gosh, Barbieri. Listen to me. The Queen. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Like, if you're going to be a mezzo worth your salt, and you have not listened to Barbieri sing, what are you doing?
Right. I agree.
What are you doing?
Yep.
We hunted down every recording I could find.
Sure, of her, yeah.
Because I just thought she wasn't opposed to making ugly sound.
Right.
To bring that character.
Yes, I agree.
Across. And when I thought about what I was doing, I was like, wow. And the strange thing is I was coaching with a coach. She was taking care of her father. He was in the house. And I left and she called me that night and she goes, oh my God, my father said, you sound like Barbieri.
Wow.
Ride.
Sure.
Because one, I don't believe him,
but what a compliment. My goodness.
This man was like 80 something years old. He's in another room and I'm like singing and he goes, she sounds like Barbieri. And I went, in my wildest dreams, yeah, I know I sound nothing like Barbieri, you know?
Jeez.
But
still, that's a hell of a compliment. That really
I mean, oh my God. I'm done. Stick a fork in me, done. People that I listen to, I went, sure. I mean, I've got vinyl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think it's a much better sound. Yeah. I think one thing that I find in younger singers is, I don't know if you're going to agree with this or not, that they don't have the history of opera.
No, because I think their history starts when CDs and MP3 right now, they don't go back that far. And I tell a lot of them, I'm like, go on YouTube and just type in the aria that you're singing. You don't even have to know a name. Type in the aria. And the beauty now of the whole digital realm is that, strangely enough, all of this stuff
is on there.
Is digital. You can find people who you don't know. And I mean, listen to those people. What you also realize is that the orchestras now are tuning so much higher than they were back then. And you're going, how was that person able, or they'll say to you, I think that was flat. No. It's not flat. The orchestras have raised the tuning.
It's almost 448 now. Yeah.
So, yes, it's so high.
Yes.
And they're like, but wait a minute, how did a contralto sing that? And I'm like, because the orchestra wasn't tuning as high as that.
That's right. I just went through this with Cheek and Hogan. We just said the same thing.
Listen to Marian Anderson. She is one of.
Oh, please.
I also had the pleasure. I'm about to cry. I had the pleasure when I was in high school of meeting her and singing for her. I was literally in high school. I got a phone call because I used to go to high school and I had to bring my uniform every day. Black skirt, white shirt. Every day was packed in my bag because I sang in New York with the All City Concert Choir.
Right.
We sang for every famous person that came in.
Right.
No one famous that came into this city I did not sing for. I sang for all of them.
Wow.
Every person. So I got a call. Dean calls me. It's like, you got to go to Gracie Mansion. You're released from school at 1:00. I'm like, okay, I got my uniform. I grab it, throw it in the bag, leave on the train. I meet a few of the other people. I say, oh, you got the call too? They, yeah, we got the call. We show up at Gracie Mansion and we're all sitting there and this woman is wheeled in. And I'm like, and people are like, who is that? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God. They're like, what? Who is that? I'm like, oh my God. And they're like, Judith, what? I'm like, it's Marian Anderson.
Wow.
And they were like, no way. I'm like, they're like, how do you know that? I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
It's Marian. And she was being given the award for the Daughters of the Revolution.
Revolutionary, right.
Yeah. And she was being awarded this award.
Yes.
The Roosevelt Award because, she went to sing and they wouldn't let her sing. So she sang at and so they were finally honoring her with this award.
Wow. And
we were singing for that award and they were like, so you're going to sing? I'm like, I'm not singing for Marian Anderson. I'm like, are you mad? Have you all lost your mind? I must say that I have had the pleasure of meeting 3 of my idols. I sang for Marian Anderson and I met her that day. Right. It will live on with me forever. I walked into a Macy's in high school because I had to get a new white shirt for the uniform. I got a tap on the shoulder. I turned around. Who tapped me on the shoulder? Leontine Price. I couldn't even speak.
Right.
I was like, she's like, I forgot my glasses at home and I can't figure out what the price of this is. And I was just like,
oh my God.
Okay.
Wow.
Sure. I did. She goes, do you work here? I said, no, but okay.
Sure.
And I told her the price. And then I stood there with my mouth hanging open and I'm looking in her face. Like she's probably thinking this kid is crazy.
Crazy, right?
And I couldn't even bring myself to say to her, I know who you are.
Right. Yeah.
And you've touched me. Physically touched me. I didn't want to wash.
Yeah, okay? Right.
I was stunned.
Oh my, yeah.
And then finally, I met her again and Jesse Norman.
Oh, wow.
I got out of school and, you have to pay back your student loans and you have to work and you got to work to have your career and pay. Mm-hmm. And so I got a job at Carnegie Hall and I've been working at Carnegie Hall and they were having the 100-year celebration of Carnegie Hall.
Right.
And I was gifted a ticket and I said, I'm going. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was one of the greatest nights of music ever. And I went. And then I go to get in the elevator. And the first elevator opens up. Jesse Norman. Thought I was going to drop dead and die. And then she's like, she was lovely. We chatted. She gets off at her floor. I was like, bye-bye. Door opens again. Leontine Price.
Unbelievable.
For the second time. She gets in the elevator and we're both just like, isn't this a great night? It's fabulous. I've met all 3 of my idols.
There you go. Good for you.
I'm good.
Yeah, right.
Anything else is extra.
That's right.
These are women who made me believe that, oh, wait, you can have this career. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be easy.
No.
But you can actually, have this career. You got to do the work.
Absolutely.
You might have to work a little extra harder for people to really believe that you can.
Yeah.
But they've had careers and they built careers and they were solid in doing it. And I got the pleasure of being in their presence.
Yeah. remarkable experiences in life and career. What would you say to a young singer, again, vocally? Because let's face it, you've had a number of teachers, including me, and I'm not ashamed to say that, that you stumped the panel.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't give up, but
No.
you knew something was not right.
Yeah. And here's what I say, because I've also been sent to famous people.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get blinded by a name.
Thank you.
Know who you are and always know what you're trying to get out of a person. This is how I've always done it. I start with a person. You get 4 lessons out of me. By the 4th lesson, I'm reviewing you and I'm asking you where you think we have come. What you've done 4 lessons with me. What do you think I need to work on?
Right. Well, I feel better now because we got past 4 lessons. So it's just...
We got past 4 lessons. Listen, I've made it through 1 lesson sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I've walked out of a 1 lesson situation with no voice.
Wow.
Horse.
Oh boy.
Horse literally picked up the phone and called people and they were like, what is wrong with your voice? I'm like, I had 1 lesson with
so-and-so,
a famous person.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, maybe they could teach other people, but they can't teach me. And I say this because so many people kept trying to change the voice.
Right. No, you can't.
And this happened. And the reality is this also happened to me in acting school.
Really?
I showed up my first day of acting school and they were like, your voice is too deep. You're not speaking right.
What?
But I've had this voice since I was born, started talking.
Right.
This voice got me in trouble a lot in elementary school. Everybody in the class would be talking when the teacher's talking, but I'd be the only person that got in trouble.
Sure, right.
But I wasn't the only person talking, but I recognized your voice.
Right.
I'm like, okay. I spent 3 months going to a speech pathologist to raise the pitch of my voice. And finally, the speech pathologist was like, this isn't working. I was just like, hey, that's the pitch you need. That's the pitch you need to speak on because your voice. And I would be like, are you kidding me?
No.
Do you think I'm going to blow into a thing every morning and speak on this pitch? I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
No.
And for 3 months, I'd show back up with the same voice 3 times a week. And she's like, no, this pitch. And I'm like, I hear the pitch. I have nothing. Listen, I'm not deaf. I know what pitch that is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a singer too.
My goodness.
I won't be speaking on that pitch.
Mm-mm-mm.
Because I did it for a week and then lost my voice.
There you go.
Everyone has tried to change me, but at some point, you know your body.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting hoarse after a voice lesson, it's wrong. It's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to trust yourself enough to even walk away from the famous people.
Yeah. I can't say how difficult a road you must have had because you know what you have. I know what you have. Trying to fit into the form had to be, you're outside the box. And, thank God you came out the other side okay. I mean, I
came out the other side because I think I had already made a determination for myself. And I've always, look, my parents raised me to be independent, to stand on my own, but to be respectful of everyone. And so, yes, some people got 1 lesson and I thanked them very much. And I was like, I don't think we're a good fit, but thank you. Mm-hmm. Some people made it to 4 lessons and we realized we were not on the same, we weren't meshing. Mm-hmm. And what I felt I needed and where they were trying to take it didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. And so I had to make very hard choices, not to find someone who's going to tell me what I wanted to hear,
Right.
but to find someone who's going to say, okay, that's your voice. It doesn't sound like what people believe a contralto is supposed to sound like.
Right.
But we're going to let them know that this is your contralto.
Right. Exactly.
And we're going to make it work for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I made it work for me. I chose roles that I personally felt not only a vocal connection to, but a dramatic connection to. I had people who were thinking a different way and then were like, well, let's try. Wow, I never thought about it. Okay, we'll try you. And then they're like, oh my God. First of all, you're like a stage animal when you get on there. It's not just about I'm going to stand here and make pretty sound. Like you literally, I said, yes, I engulf myself in the whole role.
That's right. And I think that's an important thing to say, because, you know, some people just get up, they learn an aria, and then they forget about that there's another 45 minutes worth of music.
Oh, there have been many arias that I love the aria, and then I go and I look at the role and I go, oh,
no.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah. We're going to get to this section and I'm going to be like, wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
Judith, I have to say in closing that, you know, we might not see each other every day. We've known each other for, and I don't want to say how long.
We know I'm going to say how long, but we've known each other a very long time.
And I've always found you to be a breath of fresh air. You never hold back from how you feel, which I love. And I'm pretty much the same way, but I curse more. I think that you have such a unique talent and a gift for the stage that I am so proud to say that you are my friend. I called you to do masterclass and you said, well, I said, I need you to
look, you know, I honestly was like, what? I have nothing. I was like, what am I offering? I'm like,
you have so much to offer, and you really do. And your comments are always spot on. The transformation that you've made from that, I don't know, teenage, well, no, maybe not a teen, maybe a 20-ish, early 20-year-old girl to now. It's remarkable. You've become a full artist. I mean, and I can honestly say that is a title for you. You are an artist, and I greatly appreciate it, and I love you to death. You're my friend, and it will always be that way until I die.
Absolutely. You are family. Trust me.
Absolutely. For all you do. And I love you.
Love you, darling. Take care.
Take care. You got it.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.